So I was actually able to catch Jordan Peele's latest movie, Nope, in theaters. So I want to start off by giving a special thanks to my lovely bride for watching the kids and allowing me to check out the movie while it was still in theaters.
This dream you're chasing, where you end up at the top of the mountain. It's the one you never wake up from.
You'll be getting a call from my supervisor asking how my service was.
5 stars, Angel, 5 stars.
So with that, I wanted to just kind of run through some thoughts that I have. TLDR version is, I think I liked it. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't find it to be scary nor very funny. And I know that's been Jordan Peele's wheelhouse. The Key and Peele show and with Get Out and Us being a little bit more focused on the horror aspect. But I didn't find it to fit well into that box, which is not a bad thing. It's just a thing. But I did enjoy it, and I always appreciate a good alien movie, especially one that's a little bit more geared towards the horror genre as opposed to the more action genre. The stories that talk about beings that are completely outside of our understanding of the natural world, and those beings having something against a particular set of humans, whether it's a family or just a group. But those are kind of the stories that I would gravitate towards. That being said, this definitely was an alien movie, but also it wasn't in the way that I would think an alien movie is. It's presented differently, which was both a pleasant surprise, but also a little bit of a disappointment, but not so much that I had a problem with the movie. It was just more reality versus expectations. Those are my non-spoiler thoughts. I'll go ahead and discuss spoilers starting now. Big thing is this being, or this thing that is essentially terrorizing this horse ranch, is presented more as an animal, as a predator. So the spaceship looking object is actually the form that this creature takes on, and it's actually just placed a stake on this land, and really it's just kind of hunting for food, and it's presented as more of a predator. So the idea of not making eye contact with this creature, otherwise it kind of just sets its sights on you and attacks. And so that's kind of the big reveal towards the end of the movie. It takes on almost like a jellyfish-like shape, so it definitely is more of a shapeshifter, but for the majority of the movie, it just looks like a spacecraft. And as I think about it more, to my comments about being pleasantly surprised, I just thought it was kind of interesting and kind of cool, and even kind of creepy the way the shots were made on how this alien uses the clouds almost as like a form of camouflage. So in a sense, almost like the predator, as the predator uses the trees and its camouflage cloak, and it's kind of hunting from the top ground, this alien uses the clouds and kind of just sneaks by and goes in for the kill from there. The movie centers around the son of a horse trainer who is himself a trainer as well, along having been taught by his dad. His name is OJ, and him, along with his sister M, retain control of this ranch after the father passes away at the beginning of the movie. The movie starts, see OJ just kind of going through the motions and conversing with his dad about general things that they talk about on a daily basis, when all of a sudden objects start raining down from the sky. His dad gets struck by one of those objects, rushed to the hospital, and eventually passes away. Actually, it shows an image of the dad's face, and it looked like his eye, something struck him in his eyeball, just left an open gash in the middle of his eye, where he unfortunately bled out. So you're already starting off wondering what is going on. You find out that it was actually a nickel that went through his eye into his skull and killed him. So that's how the mystery opens up. So upon his death, OJ inherits the ranch and is trying to continue the work of his father. They train horses to be featured in different films, so they were essentially almost like rented, borrowed out. And so OJ's trying to continue with that, to try to get himself out of the hole that unfortunately was left on him. nowadays it's not cheap to run a ranch or a farm or anything like that, so it makes sense that as he inherits this ranch, he also inherited the debt that may have come with it. So in order to, continue to try to make ends meet, he's trying to continue the work that his dad was doing and the legacy that was left to him. But because he's also struggling heavily, he has to resort to also selling off some of the horses to kind of like a local attraction that's run by Steven Yeun's character Ricky. Going through the motions, living life. M is a helper with him on these jobs. She also has some other priorities, but she decides to kind of come back in order to take care of some business before she's going to head off, continue living her life in the world. They both kind of get roped into this adventure, I'll call it, when OJ, trying to rescue one of his horses that was kind of going crazy and got out of his pen. As OJ's trying to get to his horse, he looks up and he sees this UFO like object, this UFO just kind of whizzing through the cloud. So he tells M, and together they kind of come up with the idea to try to get that money shot, the Oprah shot as they call it in the movie. Really what it is just get video proof of this UFO, as they believe it's an alien, to eventually sell it off, make money, and kind of get themselves out of the hole that they're in. That's the thrust into the adventure of the movie. Really just them trying to get this shot. What they end up finding out, or what OJ starts to believe is happening, or he ends up getting it confirmed by this creature's behavior, is that it's not necessarily a UFO spacecraft, but more of a creature that's preying on the life in this land. It's, as I said earlier, it's staked its hold on this and really is just hunting, one, to eat, to sustain itself, but also it seems to go after anyone who actually lays eyes on. Now, one of the things that happens as this creature flies over you is any electronic devices lose their power, and that's why they're not able to get like a good shot. Towards the kind of the climax of the movie, Ricky, you end up finding out, actually has been privy to this creature and is trying to kind of use it to gain some more fame. You end up learning that he's a child actor who was part of a sitcom called Gordy, about a family who lived with a chimpanzee, and it was actually a tragic event. As they were filming an episode, they had some balloons. The balloons popped, triggering the chimpanzee, and the chimp ran amok on set, killing several of the cast members and brutally injuring another one. And he hid under a table in fear. He's a little kid, and right before Gordy's kind of looking at him, one of the things that they used to do was like a fist bump, and Gordy's looking to do a fist bump with Ricky, terrified, and gets shot right in front of him. So I imagine he's been traumatized pretty brutally because of that incident. As most child actors suffer, they kind of get thrust into this lifestyle, and it doesn't, for most of them, they never seem to be able to get out of it. So even as he grows up, he has like a little park that he's just trying to maintain, and it's relative. I think it's relatively successful, but he wants probably to reach that level that he probably felt when he was a kid. So there's a scene towards the middle of the movie where he has some kind of event going on, and he ends up telling them that there is a UFO in the area that he is going to expose them to, and that their lives are going to be forever changed. Now, he wasn't wrong, because what ends up happening is, as the ceremony is going on, it kind of reveals itself and eats up the crowd, including Ricky. They all die. They all get eaten up. And that's when you kind of start to realize, and I think that's when OJ realizes later on in the movie, as he's coming upon this scene, because he sees that as he's looking for his horse, sees that this place looks abandoned, and sees that this alien is still hovering in the area but behind the clouds. That's when he kind of makes the point, or the realization, that this is not a spacecraft carrying little people. The spacecraft is the entity, and it's hunting. He kind of treats it as he treats his horses. If you look it straight in the eye, it's going to react violent. And so from then on, he tries not to look at it as this creature is trying to use the clouds to zigzag through and kind of make his kill. So one thing that I wasn't too sure of thinking about this after is they realized that there's a certain cloud in the sky that just remains still. And that's how they figure out that whatever this thing is, it's using that cloud to hide. What I didn't grasp, and if you know, feel free to leave a comment below. What I couldn't grasp is if this was just a cloud that the alien hid behind and kept it still, or if the cloud was the alien itself taking the form of, and it just stayed still while the rest of the clouds in the sky would move. That part I was not too sure of, but regardless, it was using the other clouds to zip behind, fly over, and I thought that was pretty clever technique. The aspect of the movie that I find most compelling, and if you've seen my other videos, it's no surprise, but I love movies that delve into some sort of familial aspect. The movie per se wasn't about family, but in a way it was. It was about OJ and his relationship with M, and a little bit of their relationship with their father. Through the course of the movie, I enjoyed seeing their interactions with each other. It did feel genuine. There was good chemistry, I think, between the actors, and it's something that I take to heart, just seeing how they cared for one another. And even by the end, you can see the aliens choosing to go between one or the other, and the climax is OJ wants the alien to follow him so that M can get away. M wants the alien to follow her so that OJ can get away, and they're kind of almost like they want to sacrifice themselves for the benefit of the other. And it may be cheesy, but they'll both end up living, and I enjoyed that. At least I think they live, because the last shot is just seeing OJ on his horse with like some fog or mist. So I'm hoping that's not some kind of symbol that he died, he got eaten up, but I think it's pretty more plain than that. It's always refreshing to see a family that actually cares about each other. And there was some themes around a father's involvement. I don't think that their relationships were strained. Definitely not between OJ and his father as he tries to continue the work that he was doing. But there was a few scenes where M kind of reflects on the impact her dad left on her. And it did seem like there was not that closeness that OJ and his dad had, but I didn't sense that there was any general disdain, which is also refreshing when there's not that hatred for a father, at least unwarranted. But it definitely did remind me to make sure that I actively engage with all of my children. And I can relate. Being the father of one girl and two boys, I do see as a man, it is a little easier to relate to my sons than it is to relate to my daughter, but that doesn't excuse me from lacking engagement with her. I have to be just as intentional with her as I am with my sons. So it's definitely a kind of a reminder to make sure I'm putting the time and effort needed to engage with my daughter, to be involved in her life from morning to night at all points of the day throughout her life, so that as she grows up, she does have that same sense of familiarity as my son does. General takeaway for me. The other general themes that I think the movie is bringing forth is just this idea of having control. And I think that was the parallel that they were trying to make, or the storyteller was trying to make, with this alien creature and the story about Gordy. It was a little clumsily placed, I will have to say. It kind of, in the middle of the movie, goes to a flashback on Ricky's experience in that episode where Gordy goes crazy. And it was a little off. It was good to see exactly what happened so that it wasn't just a reference. It could have been worked in the story better. Thinking through, like, what was the point of it other than to see what happened? How does this relate to the story at hand? And I think it has to do with this idea of having control over nature. So Gordy was this chimpanzee who they were trying to tame and control so that he participated in this sitcom for the enjoyment of humanity. And this creature, and so what ends up happening is they realize that they do not in fact have control over it. They may subdue it for a time, but it's just going to do what it does, and it loses control and they have to kill it. The same thing in thinking kind of like, what's the point of this? And I think that's what they're trying to say. Like, you can't control nature. Nature is going to do what nature does. I'm not saying it's pushing an agenda. At least I didn't take it that way. And if it is, then I would kind of just reject it and just take the good. But I think that's what is trying to be said. That this alien is just a force of nature. And you can't control it. You can't capture it. You can't use it for your own benefit, for your own entertainment. That's what Ricky was trying to do, and really kind of in a sense what OJ and M were trying to do by trying to get this shot. At first it was about making money off of it, and then it kind of transitioned into just trying to capture some sort of proof. And then by the end, M has the idea to release this giant balloon and the alien goes to devour it, and I think gets killed because as it's trying to digest this huge balloon, it pops inside of it, and last we see, the alien is just kind of just pops, dissolves into the sky, and just floats away. So I think it dies. I'm not too sure if it's just badly wounded, but I'll take it that it was dead while they're also trying to get this shot. Another thing that I took is through the course of the movie, they kind of develop a relationship with a director that was filming a commercial that had OJ's horse involved. And you see this director is kind of just jaded by life. And I think it's because he's seeing his life work and he's trying to capture something meaningful before he dies. And he calls it the impossible shot. And he says the impossible shot is impossible to get. So he ends up dying, but in the course, through that, as he's helping them, for context, they contact this director, and at first he kind of is reluctant to help them. As they gather enough evidence to prove to him that there's actually something here, he agrees to help them. He brings a non-electric camera to try to capture this alien creature. But he's able to capture it, but he still feels like there's a better shot. And so he uses himself as bait to try to film really from kind of like that intimate look at this creature, and then the course ends up dying. So there's this idea that all of our life's work is meaningless except for that which leaves kind of a lasting impression, whether it's on humanity, on those closest to you. So that's what I take as that impossible shot, is fulfilling that thing, that one thing that really gives your life meaning. Which I always look at it as a nihilistic mentality, in that this is all you get, you're really nothing after, and if you don't achieve something great, then your life is kind of worthless. And I understand that human desire to try to be something great and try to have your name in history books, but as a man of faith, I kind of reject that notion, because it really is ultimately meaningless apart from Jesus Christ, in which I place my identity, and in him I place all of my being. In that the legacy that I want to leave is not a legacy of my greatness, but a legacy firmly rooted in his greatness and what he's achieved. Just another reminder that we, apart from Christ, are nothing, and in him we can find everything through repenting and placing our trust in him for the salvation of our souls. So I think those are my general thoughts on the movie Nope. As I talk through it, I do find that I did enjoy it. I don't think it's his best. I think Jordan Peele's best still remains Get Out. Us was a movie I saw once, and I think I liked it, but it didn't leave an impression as great as Get Out did. And I think I enjoyed Nope better than Us. Maybe it's because it has to do with aliens, and that to me is a little bit more appealing, so maybe that's why I left a lasting impression. But I always judge a movie based on would I buy it or not, and this definitely is not a one-time viewing. I will want to see it again, and I think I'd buy it probably at a discount. I'll say that. Doesn't have to be a deep discount, but I don't know if I'd pay $20 for a Blu-ray. Maybe 15. I don't know. Those have been my thoughts. Hopefully they made sense. I think they did. Thanks for checking out this video. Leave any comments that you have below. This is Pronounced in Fear. Check out my other videos. Subscribe to the channel. Give it a like. It'll help me grow. As always, you guys have a good scream and be good.